you could change any choices you have ever made, would you? You can always make another choice and change the course of your success. Everyone has the potency to make inspired choices. Get ready to listen, share, and experience the creativity that is you. Now, here is the host of Inspired Choices radio show, Holographist coach, Christine McIver.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today, whether you're joining live or you're listening to one of the, 200 podcast locations. Thank you for joining. And tonight I have a show that has been wanting to come forward for some time. And tonight we are doing it. And it is going to be a show that I think is really going to really kick some energy under a lot of people's butts, myself included, because so many of us are kind of playing on the peripheral. In my interesting point of view, we're playing on the peripheral around really stepping up with what we know and what we came here to be. So I am your host, Christine McIver. I am a holographist coach. I'm a business coach. And what I do is I work with individuals, business owners, individuals just in their personal lives, organizations, anyone that is really looking to have something happen now. I'm all about making it happen right now. And so many of us plan and we're planning and we're planning and we're working on, we're planning and we're visiting our past and we're doing all that. That's great. And it's time to take action. So when you work with me, that's what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking action. We're actually going to create the hologram of your desire and have you step into it and move instantaneously into not only creating it, but being in it and receiving from your desires. And so when you work with me, you're going to notice that I'm a very straight shooter. I'm going to tell it like it is, and I am going to challenge you. I'm not going to be your best friend. You have a best friend to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear to get you from here to there and have it happen that fast. I would love to work with you if you're someone that is really looking to bring your voice to the world, to bring your voice to your team members, to bring your voice to your clients, your customers, maybe to create a relationship that is even stronger, maybe with your children, family members, colleagues, whatever it is. Let's get you started. Let's move you forward and create that life that you absolutely know is possible. And do you know how you know it's possible? Because you have been receiving the awareness of it. When you receive the awareness of something, that is the indication that it is all possible. But what it requires is action. So while I'm a holographist coach, I'm also somebody who's going to nudge you forward into action. So every single person can connect with me. We'll talk for half an hour. We'll just talk about what's going on, what you'd like to create, and what I can bring to the table to support you in doing that. So please email me, Christine at inspiredchoices.ca, or you can find me here on Inspired Choices Network, our home platform for the radio show. My radio show is Inspired Choices. You can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. I've got a profile and I want to connect with you. So tonight, this show is really all about what I love to do with people, is really moving them into the leadership of their life. So tonight's show is called How Do I Know I'm a Leader? You know, a lot of us talk about wanting to be leaders, wanting. Well, wanting means that that's in the future. All right. And oftentimes, what I find with a lot of people is they are continuously operating from in the future. And they don't even realize it with the words that they are using, that they are continuously holding themselves here and not actually being in it. Well, what I really want to highlight tonight is that there's a very strong possibility that you already are a leader. And here's what's really important about tonight's show. If you're not acknowledging that you actually are a leader, you are leaving that out of your life. And you're leaving that out of and denying the world the leader that you truly are. And the very cool thing that happens is when you acknowledge something, not only does it start to expand, but you grow yourself and move even bigger into it, even broader into it. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to, have your own TV show like I do, or have your own radio show on hundreds of platforms like I do. You don't have to do that. If that's something that you want to do, let me know and I can show you how to do that with ease. But you could be holding yourself back from being a leader in your family. Are you doing that? You could be holding yourself back from being a leader in your organization where you work. You could actually be holding yourself back from being a leader in your own business. And it doesn't matter where it is. We need leaders in every area of life. You don't have to be a business owner to be a leader. But if you're not being a leader in wherever you're showing up in your life, you are denying yourself the contribution that you can be and receive from being a leader. And you're absolutely denying the world. You're denying the people around you. You're denying your relationships. You're denying all of it. And you're actually holding back being all that you can be in this world when you're not choosing to acknowledge that you are a leader, or really looking at, okay, where am I being a leader and where am I not being a leader? So we're going to talk a lot about, and this is not going to maybe be as succinct as some of you would like it, but we're going to talk about where you're not being a leader and where you are being a leader, or where you can know that you are being a leader. I hope all this makes sense because it's just kind of all coming to me at once. So one of the ways that you know that you're being a leader is when you are willing to be vulnerable. Are you willing to be vulnerable? There are so many examples in the world, and this is November 2020 when you're listening to this. There's so an exaberant, is that a word? There's an exhausting amount of examples of people not being real leaders. A leader is not somebody who's a boss. Okay. That does not make you a leader. Just because you're a boss does not make you a leader. All right. Just because you're the father doesn't make you a leader. Just because you're the mother doesn't make you a leader. Just because you pay the bills doesn't make you a leader. Just because you're the oldest doesn't make you a leader. Just because you're the prettiest, you're the handsomest, you're the loudest, whatever it is, that none of those things make you a leader. They oftentimes just make you being someone who's obnoxious. A leader is someone that is willing to do what's uncomfortable. How many times, just look at this, how many times in your life have you chosen to step forward even when it was uncomfortable? Look at that. That's a real indication. And I would bet if you're listening to this show, you likely have a lot of opportunities, right? Wow, I didn't know I was going to talk about this. So in my earlier years in my life, I was sexually assaulted. And there was a lot of times when this occurred that I didn't step up and say something. And one time that I finally said enough, I had enough, and I stepped up and I said something. And I was incredibly uncomfortable and worried like crazy of what was going to occur. But I had to step up. I needed to make this stop, not just for me, but for others around me, even for the collective, for the energy of the feminine that was being sexually assaulted by the masculine. And that was a very important step that I took. And I took that step completely and solely for me, because it was time for me to use my voice and say no more. And that was not roses. I can tell you it was not roses, because when you step up and you actually speak the truth, it can make people very angry and very, very uncomfortable. And it created a great deal of tension in a group of people in my life. But what I've always known is that I needed to do that for me, and it was the right thing to do. How many times have you, if you look back on your life, did you actually step up and choose the right thing to do, all the while knowing that it was going to be uncomfortable? How many times in your life have you actually been willing to use your voice to say what was correct, what you knew in your gut, right? That was you being a leader. That is just one example. Being willing to be vulnerable and being willing to speak even when it's going to be uncomfortable. That's one sign that you're a leader. Here's another sign that you're a leader is when you have said something or you have made a choice, and at that moment, days later, weeks later, maybe even years later, it's brought to your attention that it impacted someone in a negative way, or it turned out incorrectly, the way that you thought it was going to turn out. And you're willing, and you did step up and say, you know what? I was wrong. I was wrong. And you're willing to own it. Do you know how many people in the world will avoid at every cost owning an action, a choice that was incorrect? That in hindsight, they can see it was incorrect, but they're too worried. Their ego has got them, and they're too worried to actually own that choice. Do you know what happens when you don't own? Do you know what happens when you don't own the choices that you have made and own that they were incorrect, that they were negative? What actually happens is you start to contract, you start to diminish yourself, and you start to question yourself, whether consciously or unconsciously. You start to question yourself. When you start to hold secrets in, you don't lead with confidence. And lead with confidence isn't knowing everything. Leading with confidence is knowing that no matter what you say or choose, that you are willing to own all of it. And that's what a true leader will do. Whether you're doing that in your family, whether you're doing that in your business, whether you're doing that in the organization where you work, whether you're doing that in any relationship, owning your actions and owning your choices with your words makes you a leader. Because we know that no one has ever been created as perfect. No one has ever come into their embodiment to not grow and expand. So if you're not willing to own your actions and own your choices, you're not leading you forward, and you're certainly not leading someone else. A leader is not the boss. The boss is not always the leader. How many companies have you worked in or watched, and there was a boss, somebody that made the decisions, but there was somebody else that was actually leading that organization? Anyone can be a leader, and in some aspect, everyone is a leader. But how much you're choosing and how much you're choosing and willing to expand yourself will show the possibilities of your leadership skills. Jen in the chat room says, a leader shows you, a boss tells you. Exactly. That's exactly right. We've all had those bosses that definitely were not leaders. They were just telling you constantly what you did wrong or trying to catch you doing something wrong. A leader will catch you doing something right and inspire you to choose greater. I've got a lot more planned for the rest of the show, but we're up for our first break. So I want you to stick around, and I want you to think about those times in your life where you chose to step up when it was uncomfortable, and you chose to own your choices and really allow other people to know that you were owning those choices. Because, my friends, You're leaning into being more of a leader than you've ever been before when you're doing that. So you're listening to Inspired Choices with myself, Christine McIver, here on the Inspired Choices Network. Please stick around. I'd love for you to continue with us. We'll be right back.
Many of us make choices in our lives based on our past experiences or what others believe. What would our lives be like if we made our choices based on what we desire for our futures? When you join Inspired Choices radio show with holographist coach Christine McIver, you'll be provoked to look at what is true and what you know but may not choose that requires your attention. Christine does not hold back and brings all her expertise during each and every show. Are you ready to create the life and the living you truly desire? Listen for Inspired Choices radio show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is the Inspired Choices Show with holographist coach Christine McIver. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Christine at inspiredchoices.ca. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. So glad that you're here tonight. We're talking about leadership and how do you know that you're a leader? A leader has so many things going on in their world. And you know, a leader is sometimes, and this is what I find, is oftentimes people think that they're not being a leader when they're questioning their leadership. And I find that to be exactly the opposite. When someone is not willing to constantly check themselves and to be looking at where they are in their world and where they are in their leadership capacities and skills and how they're showing up in the world, they're actually not being a leader. They are actually they oftentimes end up coming from a place of arrogance. How many of you out there are willing to continuously look at your own skills and capacities? Are you someone who is continuously saying, okay, I want to grow here, I want to grow there, and you're really checking in on yourself? Do you actually check yourself? Do you check in on how you chose to show up in the world today? Do you do a check-in at the end of your day? Do you actually do a target at the beginning of your day or the beginning of your week? If you're someone who is continuously looking to evolve and continuously looking to grow, you're being a leader without saying a word to anyone else. Even just the energy that you are being, and the way that you show up in the world, all right, that is absolutely contributing to the leadership required in the world. You know, oftentimes, when you are working on yourself and you're continuously working on yourself, that doesn't mean you're not ready to be a leader. So I really want people to check themselves on this. The idea that you have not arrived yet to be a leader is a lie. You're a leader even when you're in kindergarten. You can be leading the group, the people around you. Being a leader is someone who knows that something is greater and they need to keep choosing and they need to keep choosing. Okay. You don't have to arrive to be a leader. You have to acknowledge that you are being a leader, whether it is just with one other person, it's with yourself, or it's with a group of people in your organization, in any aspect of your life. That is so, so important to acknowledge that. The other really big thing is a true leader, my friends, is not someone that calls somebody else out on their shit. All right. I got to tell you, I have, I've been getting rubbed the wrong way, and it's really bothering me because I am watching people in social media all around the politics and all around what's going on with COVID, and they're calling other people out at being wrong. When you are trying to make yourself, like, push your point of view at people, when you are trying to control the direction people are going, is you're not a leader, you're a control freak. You're not being a leader. I'm actually in a spiritual group, and it blew my mind. It absolutely blew my mind yesterday when I saw people posting their point of view about COVID. Other people, and they were doing it with massive judgment and massive, I'm right and everybody else that has a different point of view is wrong. And other people that are in the group were arguing with them and fighting. And spiritual people are no different than anybody else. They're just putting a name on who they are or what they do. But it blows my mind that people that consider themselves conscious or spiritual are still continuing to operate from that space of right and wrong. It is incredible. It is absolutely incredible to see the arguing and the fighting going on. Let me give you an example. And I'm not going to share with you my point of view about COVID because that's my point of view. If you want to ask me privately and really look at why I have that point of view, I am happy to discuss that with you. But let me talk about the political leadership that's going on, or lack thereof, in the US. So the choices that the current president, Donald Trump, has chosen has created a lot of anxiety, a lot of challenges and problems, and he's been found to be not truthful on a number of occasions. And I know for some of you, that's incredibly mild, the way that I'm explaining this. A lot of people have been very passionate about who they voted for and why. That's awesome. That's great. When people were talking about Joe Biden and why they wanted to vote for him and what they saw in him that was lacking in Donald Trump, was fine. It was like, great, bring forward what you see and what you know to be something that you believe is going to contribute. It's amazing. And then when it was declared that Joe Biden was the president-elect, I saw a lot of those very same people that were talking about kindness and generosity and inclusion and all of that start to go out and actually, like, call out Donald Trump and call him names and do exactly what he was doing that they were calling out prior to the election. I hope this is making sense. Somebody in the chat room, let me know. It actually shows that these people are not choosing to truly be leaders in every aspect. Now, yes, we're all still growing and learning, and we can step in and out of leadership. But I really want to shine the light on this, that if you're stepping forward and you are really coming from that space of leadership and sharing what you believe will be a contribution, that is fantastic. But when you turn around and you give unsolicited judgment to others, I feel like this is just the way my brain works, but I feel like you nearly cancel out the wonderful leadership that you actually demonstrated prior to this. Right? Like, what is it about people that it's like their egos are so in this? Their egos are so huge. And a real true leader checks their ego continuously. Everybody has an ego. That's part of being a human being. And I think that the ego is actually there to be really loud so that we will actually get louder in being a leader, in operating from the heart, in creating a world of kindness. The ego is actually the thing that contributes to us stepping up when we've chosen things that have gotten really messy and ugly. So the ego is not bad, but the ego shows you where you're actually operating from less than what is possible for you. So when people are operating from the ego, they're not operating from being a leader. A leader is someone that is willing to go ahead even if someone doesn't follow them. And I know you've probably heard that 100 times, but it bears repeating because you've got to be willing to take those steps when you have no guarantee that anybody else is going to follow you. You've got to be willing to own what you know. You've got to be willing to use your voice to create greater with what you know in every cell of your body. And you've got to be willing to own your voice and willing to own when you've messed up. A true leader is really willing to continuously evolve, continuously see where they're holding back. You've got to be willing to be the true leadership in your own life, even if nobody around you is demonstrating leadership. When you're holding back, acknowledging where you are being a leader, you can't actually expand into being even more of a leader. So I'm going to call every single person out that's listening to this. I want you tonight, I want you to write down 5 places or 5 ways that you know you showed up as a leader in the past week. It could have been in a one-on-one conversation. It could have been in a TV or radio show. It could have been when you were in a group on social media. It could have been when you were writing a letter. It could have been with your employees. It could be in so many ways of the way you're showing up in the world. But you've got to acknowledge that. You've got to acknowledge where you are being a leader. And what does this world require? What do we require more than ever is we require leaders. We require leaders that are willing to be and do something different. When you're not willing to own your leadership capacities in any and every conversation, the people around you that desire, that need the leadership and the guidance, if they don't get it from you, they might get it from another source that will take them down a path that will not contribute to our future together. You see, what I absolutely know, my friends, is this world is going to continue to move forward. There are babies still coming in, and there are going to be babies coming in for many, 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 many lifetimes. And they require us to step up so that they will find the path so that they can then step up. You are a leader in the world. Whether you like it or not, someone is watching you. You don't have to have had children to be a leader. You don't have to have a business to be a leader. Your actions lead you in a direction, and they can be leading someone else. To create the world that you desire requires you to step up and be a leader for all of us to receive from. You know, when I think about leaders and I think about leadership, I think about different individuals that really pop to my mind, and lots of us have people that pop to our minds. And what I love, what endears me even closer to someone who's a leader, is actually when they share with me where they've messed up, because it shows me that they're human and that I too, in my humanness, can be a leader. Do you know that you can be a leader just by choosing it? And do you know that when you actually allow the ego to step aside, as you step into and own your knowing more and more, the universe is going to contribute even greater to you. But you can't play small, my friends. You can't just wash things aside and ignore them. I'm not saying you have to step into everything that's going on in the world, but when something is strong for you, and when you're making a choice, be willing to own that choice and know in that moment you're being a leader. Okay, we're going to take our next break of the show. And when we get back, we're going to lean into more of what a leader is and what a leader is not, and how you can actually enjoy the journey of being a leader. So you're listening to Christine McIver on Inspired Choices radio show here on the Inspired Choices Network or Inspired Choices TV. Stay tuned, my friends. We'll be right back.
Many of us make choices in our lives based on our past experiences or what others believe. What would our lives be like if we made our choices based on what we desire for our futures? When you join Inspired Choices radio show with holographist coach Christine McIver, you'll be provoked to look at what is true and what you know but may not choose that requires your attention. Christine does not hold back and brings all her expertise during each and every show. Are you ready to create the life and the living you truly desire? Listen for Inspired Choices radio show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you ready to have pleasure with your business? Yes, I said pleasure with your business. The Pleasure of Business a la carte will surprise you with topics like meet yourself in the boardroom, money, services, and you. Expand your visibility. The pleasure of communication. The pleasure of Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Christine McIver has so much pleasure with business and loves teaching all things business. Beginning a new business? Desiring to expand a current business? Or looking to resurrect a business that has been dormant? This program will get you fired up and bring more pleasure than you have ever imagined. Exhausted with your excuses for not creating a phenomenal business? Join now for all the pleasure with business. Pleasure of Business a la carte gives you total choice for what you desire and what your business requires. That's 24 weeks of different topics to choose from with weekly calls, audio and video recordings, and PDFs. This class will have you dive right in and use tools to create the business that has been speaking to you. Go to inspiredchoices.ca for full details or join the Facebook page Pleasure o' Business a la carte. Now is the time for you and your business.
This is the Inspired Choices Show with holographist coach Christine McIver. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Christine@InspiredChoices.ca. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, my friends. Yes, we are talking about leadership tonight. We're talking about how do I know that I am a leader? Well, you know that you're a leader if sometimes you feel like you're going to mess up. You know that you're a leader if you get uncomfortable and you have to speak. You know that you're a leader if sometimes you're going in a direction where nobody else is going. You know that you're a leader when people really look to you for guidance. You know that you're a leader when you follow your gut. So you heard about the Pleasure of Business. That's a program that I love to do with people. And I've heard so many people. This is an example of me choosing to be a leader in business. I've heard so many people say, "I hate business. I don't understand it. I want to do this, but this isn't fun." And I love business. I love business. It's pleasurable to me. And this is one of the programs that I developed that I step into with people again and again and again. And so many people looked at me like, "What do you mean the pleasure of business?" Because a lot of people feel as though business can be hard and uncomfortable. N- Did you know that you can have pleasure when something's hard? Yep, there's a pun in there if you want to take it. Um, Being a leader in the world and also having pleasure with something is okay. Leadership does not always have to be uncomfortable. Leadership does not always have to be difficult. Leadership can also be doing something where you have pleasure and showing other people how to have pleasure. If you would like to have pleasure with your business, connect with me. I have a great program that I work with individuals that are soulpreneurs. I love working with soulpreneurs. It lights me up and I just get so excited and start to move through things with them so quickly. I actually do, start you at the very beginning, whether it's you need a website or you need to kind of figure out how to do your pricing or how to actually create products, right up to strategic planning for the next 6 months to a year on how to grow your business, grow your brand, even bringing your voice to the world. That is another thing that I love to show people how to do. And I became a leader in my own business when I started the Inspired Choices Network. And, I still pinch myself because when I look today at everything that we have created here on the Inspired Choices Network over the last, well, we're in our 7th year now of producing. And when I look at everything that we've created, it blows my mind. And it was because I continually followed my knowing and I was willing to get uncomfortable and I was willing to put in the work and I was willing to say, no, this is the way it should be done. And to me, it's pleasurable. And I know because I have hosts all the time telling me, like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing how you support us, what everybody on the network is doing, and how you show us how to bring our voices to the world with ease." You see, being a leader is following your knowing. That's simply that. I mean, if you were to break it down, being a leader is following your knowing. Now, there are, online etymology talks about being a leader is you're the first person that steps out. Well, maybe you're the first person in your group. Maybe you're the first person in your family. Maybe you're the first person in your business. Maybe you're the first person of anybody that you know that has gone to college. Maybe you're the first person in your family that has gone to college. That's being a leader in your family. And that is required in the world. We need leaders on every level of life, in every level. We need leaders in government. We need leaders in spirituality, in religion. We need leaders in organizations of every level. We need leaders in families. We need leaders that are willing to step into and follow their knowing without making somebody else wrong while still developing who they are. So, who here has a question about their leadership? What question do you have that you're questioning whether you are a leader or not? Or better yet, do you often hesitate in stepping forward because you believe you're not ready yet to be a leader? Anybody? Is there anyone here? Because I know I've been there a million times where I've gone to take a step in my life, gone to take a step in my relationships, gone to take a step even on social media and thought, okay, what am I creating with this leadership? What am I creating by my choice? Are you being a leader or are you hesitating your leadership? Now, I'm going to tell you how you become a leader. It's really simple and really scary. Are you ready? It's by taking action. It's by taking action. You cannot step into being a leader if you are not willing to take action. You've got to be willing to screw up. You've got to be willing to fail. You've got to be willing to be pulled out. Jen in the chat room says, what? No magic pill? What if I wish really, really hard? Well, you can wish really, really hard and you can take all the pills you want, but that's not going to make you a leader. What's going to make you a leader is by taking the action, by being willing to soar and simultaneously be willing to fail. You did not grow. Nobody grows in the easy times. We grow in the hard times, in the difficult times. That's where we stretch ourselves. Look back on those times when it was difficult for you, when it was hard for you, when you were questioning yourself. Did you continue to choose forward? Well, if you're listening to my voice in a body, then you did. You did, and that made you a leader in your own life. Are you willing? Are you honestly willing to be a leader in this world? Because we need leaders. We do not need naysayers. We do not need complainers. We do not need judgmental people that are in it for just themselves. I talk about pleasure. I talk about growing. I talk about creating a life of joy. That includes you, but does not exclude anyone else. And a true leader knows that they are included in the creation. If you are doing leadership from a martyr position, I am telling you that you are going to crash and burn because you didn't choose to come here just for everyone else. You chose to have this experience with you on this planet that has other people here. But you came in first for you. And we have got to get past this idea that we're doing all of this from self-sacrifice. You did not come into a body, and your spirit did not show up to put everybody else ahead of them. Just look at anybody you know, like look at mothers. Oftentimes mothers do this, where they do this massive self-sacrifice, and they end up being depressed, suicidal, catching diseases, being sick. They create such intensity in their bodies and in their minds and in their emotional and mental health because they leave themselves out of the equation. A leader does not leave themselves out of the equation, but what they do is they include everybody else in it. A true leader is willing to include everyone. A true leader is willing to take in everybody's points of view. A true leader is willing to be inclusive and choose from that inclusiveness from their knowing. A true leader is willing to step up and own their knowing and own their voice. Again, whether this is with one-on-one or if this is in, you're a political leader on the landscape of the world. A true leader begins where they begin. We all begin at the beginning for us. And that starts with choosing consciously to step into our lives. If you have a desire and you're willing to know that you have everything required to create those desires, and you start to operate from your knowing, that is your leadership of you. And the very cool thing that happens is when you acknowledge that you are choosing you and you're choosing forward and you're choosing to grow and you're choosing to get uncomfortable and you're choosing to know that you're not perfect and that you're continuously evolving, you start to step into more and more leadership. And the people around you begin to acknowledge it and they begin to see it. My friend, don't hold back on what you know in your gut is true. Because when you own that, you start to lean in to the leadership that you desire and also what your creations desire and what the world desires. It's time to step up and be a leader and to be it from that space of pure authenticity, not spewing somebody else's point of view. Somebody that educates themselves, that continuously grows themselves on a self-development level, somebody that takes in all sorts of points of view and is willing to own what rings true for them. But the key is here, my friends, you've got to take action. You've got to take action. So we are up to our final break of the show. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I am very excited and happy to be your leader tonight in discussing this conversation. When we get back, we're going to continue to talk about that. And I'm going to tell you what's coming up next week here on the Inspired Choices radio show. You are listening to Christine McIver on the Inspired Choices Network and Inspired Choices TV. I look forward to having you back right after this break.
Many of us make choices in our lives based on our past experiences or what others believe. What would our lives be like if we made our choices based on what we desire for our futures? When you join Inspired Choices radio show with holographist coach Christine McIver, you'll be provoked to look at what is true and what you know but may not choose that requires your attention. Christine does not hold back and brings all her expertise during each and every show. Are you ready to create the life and the living you truly desire? Listen for Inspired Choices Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is the Inspired Choices Show with holographist coach Christine McIver. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Christine@inspiredchoices.ca. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. I know that this is probably an unusual conversation to have. No, how do I know that I am a leader? But it's an important one. Now, when we first started out the show, I was talking about the ego and how a lot of leaders operate from the ego. And they get really loud and it's all self-serving and they are, really looking out to just get everything that they want and to hell with anybody else. Well, I'm going to throw you a wedgie right now. If you have a knowing about something and you hold back because you're worried about what other people are going to say, you're worried about other people judging you, you're worried about failing, you too are operating from ego. You are. You're operating from the ego. And when you are in the energy of the ego, you're actually not creating greater and you're not including others. So many times it would be easier for me to not say something to someone, to just let it go. I had a conversation earlier today with someone about something that was uncomfortable. And in stepping into actually owning my voice, was important for me. And it's also important and was important for that individual. But here's the thing, when you are willing to step in and be uncomfortable, and you're doing it from the space of inclusion, your ego steps aside. Okay. And if you are truly operating from the ego, you are going to deny yourself and you're denying the world of great leadership. When you are holding back and when you are thinking only about yourself and about what's going to happen to you, you're operating from the ego. And you're not actually operating from that space of leadership because you're worried just about yourself. You don't think about what actually you're holding back from someone else when you are operating from your ego. So it goes both ways, my friends. All right. It's very, very important that in this time, in this huge change that's happening in our world, that you step up and be a leader, that you be willing to be uncomfortable, that you be willing to use your voice in a way that will change the world, at least for one other person. Imagine, just imagine. Remember at the beginning of the show, I talked about writing down places where you are a leader. I want you to look at that. And I want you to think about what you would have denied people around you had you not stepped in and been a leader at those times. If I had not stepped in and been a leader in my own business and followed my gut in creating the Inspired Choices Network, I can tell you that hundreds of people that want to bring their voice to the world, that had messages to share, would have been denied that opportunity because we wouldn't be here. There are hundreds and hundreds of guests that would have been denied the opportunity to create with those hosts and bringing their voice to the world. And for all the listeners out there that are looking for the messages that these amazing leaders are being and creating in the world, all of those hundreds of thousands of listeners would not have been able to find exactly what it was that they needed. Thank you, Jen. Jen says, thank you for being a leader so that I too can be a leader. That is it right there. As you step up and you be a leader, you inspire that next person to be a leader. And is there a greater gift in the world? Is there a greater gift in the world? Showing somebody that you chose to do it even while you were scared, even while you felt vulnerable, even while you were unsure. Even when you knew there was a possibility of failing, you did it anyways, and they got to witness it. And they got to also have the example of what it means to be a leader. Because let's be honest, there's a lot of people out there that have the label of leader, and they are not the leaders we want creating our world. You're the one that we want, the one that's operating from their heart, the one that's being vulnerable, and the one that's continuously choosing self-development and growing themselves. My friends, I'm so grateful for each and every one of you for being here. This has been a powerful show. It's been a powerful show, not just for the listeners, but also for me. And it's challenging me to listen to myself and to choose to be even a greater leader than I was yesterday. I hope that this also has inspired you to choose greater. Next week, please join me. We're going to be talking about resisting your leadership and what that actually looks like in the world. I'm incredibly grateful for this time and this opportunity to speak with you. I'd love to hear from you. Please shoot me an email, Christine@inspiredchoices.ca. And no matter what's going on in your life or in the world around you, I want you to always remember that you can always make another choice. It's always available to you. Now go out and be the leader in your own life so that people around you can choose to be a leader too.
Thank you for choosing to listen to
Bye,
Inspired
everybody.
Choices Radio Show. Christine McIver will return next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Until then, be willing to choose what you really desire. This is your life, making the choices that bring you all that you desire.